Scotland's first darts world champion started life as an unwanted orphan. He left school at 14 and he worked the toughest jobs just to keep his family afloat. His story should have ended in poverty, yet a single win of £500 at a holiday camp forced him to gamble everything on darts. How did desperation turn into worldwide fame? And why did a two-time champion's greatest gift end up destroying him? The answer begins in Kirkcaldy, with a boy nobody wanted. Jocky Wilson entered the world in 1950 in Kirkcaldy, born into poverty and left to scrape by in a family the authorities judged unfit to raise him. With no father around and a mother unable to cope, he spent much of his childhood under the care of his grandmother, growing up in the shadow of Fife's grey council estates. School never offered much hope. At 14, he walked away from the lessons for good, knowing there was no money coming in. The only way to keep food on the table was through hard graft. Jocky hauled coal, gutted fish and worked shifts down the Seafield colliery, breathing in coal dust and the heavy air of men who knew their lives would always be a struggle. In 1966, the army offered a brief escape. He signed up, trained as a chef and learned to take orders. After 2 years he was back in Kirkcaldy, married to Malvina, his childhood sweetheart, and starting a family of his own. 3 children, John, Willie and Anne-Marie, squeezed into a cramped council house. Money was always tight. Pay from the colliery barely covered rent and groceries, and every week was a battle just to get by. Nights at the Lister bar became his small relief, where a pint and a battered dartboard gave him a break from the grind. Jocky's world was one of survival, not opportunity. The jobs were hard and the future uncertain, but in the smoky corners of the pub, with a pint in hand and a dart in his grip, something began to take shape, a skill that would one day offer a way out, if only he could take the risk. The Butlins darts competition in 1979 was not meant to change a life. For Jocky Wilson, it was a last throw of the dice. Unemployed and scraping by, he scraped together the fare to Ayrshire, chasing the kind of luck that never seemed to come his way. The tournament was packed with hopefuls, but Jocky's hands, steady from years of labour and nights at the Lister bar, found their mark. He beat every opponent put in front of him, and he walked away with the £500 first prize. For a brief moment, he brought home more money than he had ever seen at once, but the win did not bring relief. News of the prize travelled fast, and the dole office did not miss a thing. His benefits were stopped overnight. The safety net was gone. At 29, with no savings, no fallback, and a family to feed, Jocky faced a choice. He could drift back to the mines, or he could take a gamble on the only thing he had ever been truly good at. There was no sponsor, no manager, just the raw need to survive. He turned professional that year, not out of ambition, but out of necessity. The world of competitive darts was not glamorous. Travel meant borrowed cars and cheap hotels, and every match was a risk he could not afford to lose. But the decision was final. The old life was gone. Jocky Wilson, council house orphan and miner, was now a professional darts player, stepping into an arena where every throw could mean the difference between paying the rent and going hungry. In January 1982 at Jolly's Cabaret Club in Stoke-on-Trent, Jocky Wilson, the 4th seed, faced John Lowe, England's favourite, who was chasing a second world title. The match started with Lowe edging the opening set 3-2, but Jocky answered in style. In the second set he produced a dazzling 144 checkout. 3 darts, all precision, the kind of moment that sends a shock through the crowd and rattles even the most seasoned opponent. Momentum shifted, Jocky's nerve held as the sets piled up, a tight third, then the 5th and the 6th until he stood 1 set from immortality. On the final leg, the pressure could have crushed anyone. But Jocky, short and stocky with his battered smile and battered hands, found double 16 for the title. The final score was 5-3. Scotland had its first World Darts Champion. The trophy, the cheers, the £6,500 winner's cheque. None of it felt real as he hoisted the silverware, the crowd roaring for the underdog from Kirkcaldy. That night, Jocky drove north through the dark, the trophy on the passenger seat, straight back to the Lister bar. The regulars who had watched him hustle for pints now toasted a world champion. And the money changed everything. Jocky moved his family out of the cramped council house and into a spacious bungalow. At his peak, his annual earnings soared to £60,000, a fortune for a man who had once counted every penny. The boy who had never been given a chance was now Scotland's hero, a household name, and the face of a sport on the rise. A pint of lager to steady the nerves, then vodka, sometimes one, sometimes three, sometimes enough to leave even the toughest men reeling. This was no superstition. For Jocky Wilson, it was ritual. In the smoky chaos of the 1980s dart scene, where the Oach was as much a stage as a battleground, Jocky's routine became legend. Eric Bristow joked that at the end he was doing a 40-ounce bottle. But there was nothing funny about what happened when Jocky got going. Match after match he bulldozed through the field, winning the British Professional Championship 4 times, in 1981, 1983, 1986, and 1988, a record that still stands. Year after year, he refused to fall below the quarterfinals at the World Championship. The crowd loved the wild swings. 1 minute the toothless grin and a hug for a rival, the next a slurred insult or a stumble straight off the stage. John Lowe remembered that 1 minute he was the nicest man on earth, and the next extremely offensive, always apologising the next day, never remembering what he had done. The pinnacle came in 1989. Jocky, now 38, faced Eric Bristow in the World Championship final. He stormed ahead 5-0 in sets, needing just one more to finish it. Then Bristow clawed back set after set until it was 5-4 and 2 legs apiece in the 10th set. 8 million viewers watched as Jocky steadied himself, nerves frayed, and found his mark. A final dart, and he won 6-4. He became the oldest world champion ever at that moment. His face flashed across Top of the Pops, a Scottish hero in a sport built on pub bravado and working class pride. But behind the celebrations, the ritual that fueled his brilliance was already taking its toll. Late in the 1980s, a new diagnosis threatened everything Jocky Wilson had built. Doctors told him he had diabetes, a condition that did more than limit his diet. It made drinking alcohol dangerous. For most players, that would have meant cutting back. For Jocky, it meant facing an impossible choice. His pre-match routine, lager followed by vodka, was not about bravado. Over years, his body had come to rely on that chemical calm. Alcohol steadied his nerves and smoothed his throwing action. Without it, his hands shook, his aim drifted, and the flow that once seemed automatic vanished. Endocrinologists say alcohol can cause blood sugar swings, especially in people with diabetes, triggering nausea and weakness. Jocky tried to adapt, swapping vodka for water at tournaments. The results were immediate and brutal. His accuracy collapsed, and the confidence that once made him a champion evaporated. The very thing that had fueled his rise now made it impossible to compete. In 1993, Jocky Wilson joined 15 other top players and broke away from the British Darts organisation to launch a new era, the World Darts Council, which was soon renamed the Professional Darts Corporation, known as PDC. The promise was fresh formats, bigger prizes, and a return to prime-time television. But the timing could not have been worse for Jocky. The group stage system of the early PDC World Championships exposed his decline. In 1994, he lost both group matches, first to Steve Beaton, then to Tom Kirby, failing to win a single leg in his opener. The following year, he fell to Peter Gilmore and Jamie Harvey, again without a win. The edge that once set him apart was gone, his accuracy slipping away in front of smaller crowds and unfamiliar faces. On December 23, 1995, after another early exit, Jocky packed up his darts and left the venue in silence. No official announcement, no farewell, just a sudden absence from the stage he had once ruled. Every year, professional darts earns millions, yet player welfare remains largely self-managed. Jocky Wilson's fate is a stark reminder. Sporting glory offers no safety net when addiction and illness hit. The next champion could face the same silence. What responsibility does sport owe its fallen heroes? Let's talk.